Well, hello everyone. We are here, Shreekala Ram and I are here again to talk about the month of April. And we're recording this one so that this one, instead of going live, we're going to be able to save this. So this recording is going out to you guys because we lost the other two and we don't know why, but now we're recording it so that we can make sure that everyone will see our predictions for the month of April. And we have a pretty exciting month ahead because this month has what astrologers love, at least my team of astrologers love, eclipses, because eclipses are so predictive. If you don't look at where the eclipses are happening, then you don't really know what's happening for that year. But here we go. We're going into eclipse season again, which is the most intense. So we're going to be talking about that solar eclipse, and we're going to be talking about the full moon that we have in April. And of course, April is the month that Jupiter goes into Aries. This is monumental. All and everything changes. When Jupiter changes signs, it changes personally for everyone, depending on, what house Jupiter is going to be going in your chart. So that's a huge big deal. And we were going to be talking about the Mercury retrograde this month. So with no further ado, I am going to hand this over to Shree. Shree, tell us about, and you're going to be able to share the screen and show everyone what we're looking at in terms of the month and where all the planets are headed.
Yes, sure.
Tell us what's
Sure.
going on.
Sure, Joni. I mean, I agree with you. This is a very active month. We wait for the Jupiter movement into different signs. Jupiter is in a sign for a whole year, guys. So this is not a very common thing. Every year we are going to have this shift happening, but you see the energy shifting in the sky each time this happens. We have a Mercury going retrograde. So lots of new things happening this month. So let's share the screen and start talking about all of this. So I'm going to do what you guys have always seen me do. I'm going to have the tool up here, which will help me, go day by day. So we're going to start on the 2nd of April, because at this point, as you can see, Mars is going to be trining Ketu. Right? So Mars is in Ardra. So this is one big thing, Joni, that happened, right? With Mars going into Gemini, because it was in Taurus going retrograde and all that for almost 7 months, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. It was intense. And now that it's in the sign of communications, everything is coming up to the forefront and being uncovered. This is just an incredible time that we've been talking about for so long. And don't forget, whenever a planet is intensely or exactly aspecting K2, it brings up things from the past.
It does.
And so we have a lot of things being resurfaced according to this time. I mean, look at the news. What's going on? I mean, everything's being resurfaced and things coming up, and the truth is coming out, right?
Yes, absolutely. And also, Joni, you mentioned about communications, news agencies, and media. We talked about this in our March predictions too. And as you can see, even right now with Mars in Gemini and the Sade Sati that is happening for the US chart, which we'll talk about in detail, in the 3rd house of communications and news and media, a lot of things are happening right now. You guys must be aware that, tech giants like Facebook and Google have been asked to pay fees for the news that they're consuming from the publishers. This is a big deal. They're not going to get it for free anymore. So stuff like that, because that's what 3rd house is. It's technology, media, agencies, right, Joni?
Yes. So pull up the United States chart if you could for just a second so people understand why we're talking about this pattern. There you go. Thank you. So you see, this is the chart for the United States, the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And the moon sits right there in this birth chart at 7 degrees of Aquarius. And so now we have transiting Saturn at 7 degrees of Aquarius. And what is that? That's called Sati Sati, whenever transiting Saturn comes to the moon. And it's revered as a very, very difficult time for anyone that goes through Sati Sati. But in reality, Sati Sati actually means 7.5. So for
Yes.
7.5 years, while Saturn's in the sign before, the sign of, and the sign after the moon, and that whole process takes 7.5 years, that's called Sati Sati. But when it comes exactly to the moon, that is when we have, you know, the intensity of Saturn moon, which can be, you know, serious stuff. And like we're showing you, the moon is in the third house of the United States chart, which deals with communications and travel. And that's what's up for the US.
Yeah, absolutely. And the moon rules the eighth house, which is investments and money that comes to you. And
Yes.
as you can see, we are having all these issues with banks right now. You know,
Right.
there's going to be a whole overhaul about, you know, their hacking or their technology. Everything has to be looked at because it's concerning what is happening. But out of these concerns and challenges come long-term change, which will be very welcome in the end. That's how Sadesati works. It brings problems. We figure it out. We figure the solution. And that's, you know, that solution is for the next 30 years or so, right? Till the next Sadesati. So that's how it works. And as you can see, Saturn will be transiting the moon. It already transited once, March 19th.
Mm-hmm.
And there'll be two more hits, October 1st. It'll be retrograde going over the moon. And then the last one will be December 7th. So this, you know, whenever a planet is transited 3 times, it is basically finalizing an event. So the first time it's kickstart something. The second time things are in motion. We are starting to plan what we are going to do about this. And the third and final time is the, you know, the finality, the closure of that event. Right. So that's important. Anytime there is a transit that happens 3 times, it is actually bringing long-term change. So this is definitely something to watch. We will be talking about this in future months because we have this happening again in October and December. We'll be watching it, but definitely in March, I believe, Joni, and I know you think so too, with the banking system and the technology and the media and the news agencies, we've seen a lot of things in the month of March when the first hit happened. So we just have to watch it to see what happens the next 2 times.
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, so much is happening concerning the financial markets and everything this year. And, you know, the last time, and by the way, I wrote a very detailed article for the magazine, Joni Patry's Astrology Insights, concerning the banking industry and what's happening and what will be happening in the future this year, because 2023 is monumental for the clearing with the banks. Let me just give you a little clue here, because Jupiter, once it goes into Aries, it's going to come together with Rahu. And as it does, so I went back historically to see when was the last time that Jupiter and Rahu came together in the sign of Aries. Now remember, Jupiter and Rahu come together about once every about 11 years. So this is not a rare thing, but or a little less than that, but still that's not rare. But the last time that it came together in Aries, Rahu Jupiter, was the year of 1929. And 1929 was, I'm sure everyone remembers that, that was the biggest stock market crash, and it set off the Great Depression. So it had an enormous effect on the economy. But I'm going to give my predictions on what I think this is happening based on the cycles and where all the other planets are in this article in the magazine. So you guys might want to check out the magazine for the month of April. So Shri,
We have amazing articles, Joni. I'm waiting to you know, read yours because it will really shed a lot of light on the financial institutions and what we are experiencing right now. And in addition to that, Joni, as you know, we have the Who's in the News is going to be Brendan Fraser, the Hollywood actor who got the Academy Award.
about that.
Yeah, that was a, you know, I love the Academy Awards this time. And, you know, Our student of our university, Odelia, has written an amazing article on Brendan Fraser and his life, which, there's so many ups and downs in his life. So we have explored all of that in detail in that article. Michelle Bond comes back with the monthly predictions, which she's amazing at. And then this month, for our featured interview, we have Janika, who, she's known as Wisdom from the North, and she's known globally as a thought leader and a spiritual leader. She has an amazing YouTube channel, and I actually had a lot of fun interviewing her, Joni, because her life, there's so many, extremes in her life, and how she ended up in this field is just so inspirational. And she helps people every day with her knowledge and her, her spiritual side. She gives a lot of information to people. So this is definitely something you guys want to read. And amazing pictures from her childhood. She used to be a child actress. That's just a little hint I'm giving you.
Yes.
Okay.
And Janika, she is just the most beautiful soul. I introduced her, and I did a YouTube introducing her and talking about her spirituality. So you won't want to miss that on my YouTube channel as well. That's coming out here too, but it's in the magazine. I mean, she is just a beautiful, beautiful light in this world. I loved it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's amazing how she came into the field of spirituality. So there's definitely a lot to read there, guys. How did she go from being an actress to a spiritual leader? So, check it out in the magazine. We have Robin and Michael Maestro coming back with Vastu Shastra, spring renewal. This is the time for spring cleaning and how to renew your house from a Vastu standpoint. Then we have Barry Rosen with Mars in Gemini. We just talked about Mars entering Gemini. It is such a timely article, and check it out. See what's going on with Mars in Gemini. And then we have Astro Insight by Alan Anand, and he is writing about the actor Warren Beatty, which is another beautiful article that he has come up with. And then we have our regular tarot and spirituality article by Rukmini Sen. She writes every month for us. And we have Joni's Spiritual Insights. Another every month we have that. And again, Joni, I love your spiritual insights because you just know how to give the news to people, but at the same time, it's so uplifting, your message. So it's just amazing to read that.
Thank
you. Then another thing we also have, I'm sorry, Joni.
No, I was just saying thank you.
Yes. Another thing we also have is Audrey comes back with her articles about how to be held in eternity with clear vision. So she talks about spirituality all the time, and I just love her articles too. She has poetry in there. It's amazing. So we do have a nice lineup of articles this time around, Joni. Okay. So
good.
We'll provide the link for that below this video, guys. So make sure you go and check it out.
Yeah, you won't want to miss this issue. It's exciting and fun. Good. Yeah. So continuing on with looking at the month of April, Mercury around this time was conjunct Rahu. Looking at this April 6th date you have pulled up, this so
it's the full moon, Joni. I was trying to get to that point. I think it's 0034. So let me get it to there. Okay. Because it was the full moon. Let's see. Let's go back to the previous day.
Yes. No, it is it's on the 6th, and
it's I think around midnight.
Right after midnight.
Yeah, it's right after midnight. Yeah, that's why I was trying to go to the 5th and come back. Right there. So it's around midnight. Right after midnight, you have 22 degrees of Virgo, 2158. So that's around where you have the full moon happening. You can see, guys, full moon is when the sun and the moon are in opposite houses, and they are exactly to the degree. So this is the full moon on the 6th. And what's interesting is, look at the Mercury and Rahu. This is what you were referring to, right, Joni?
Yes, that is so intense. Mercury's all about communications. And here's what's interesting. They're just about exactly conjunct a fixed star, El Sheridan, which is in Aries around 10 degrees. And look at Mercury, and that is right there at 10 degrees, 9 degrees, 50 minutes, 47 minutes,
Exact.
right there.
Exact. Yeah.
So El Sheridan is the star that deals with impulsive behaviors, accidents. You've got to be cautious around this time. And because it's Mercury, Mercury does deal with what, we think and what we say. It's how we communicate with each other. Be careful your choice of words at this time. You don't want to spew out things that are going to hurt people's feelings, that they won't forget, and things like that you'll regret.
Yeah.
So be careful around this time, because remember, truly the sign Aries can be so impulsive. And I think a lot of the indications in the sign of Aries does come from these stars that are in this constellation, because we have some other stars we're going to be talking about a little bit later in the month that are going to be activated in this particular sign. But this is a time to be careful around traveling, and that means all sorts of traveling by car, by train, by bus, by air. Be careful and don't be too impulsive. Take your time. Be
Yeah, and Mercury, it moves fast, right, Joni? So it's probably a couple of days when the
right.
effect is really, really strong. And another thing, guys, is look at that Saturn. It's at 9
Exactly.
degrees, aspecting it exactly. So there are multiple malefics aspecting the Mercury. So it's under a lot of stress, okay?
Exactly.
So, and if you look from the moon in Vedic astrology, you look at the moon chart, these planets are in the 6th and the 8th.
Right.
So
Very difficult.
yes, it's very difficult. So this is a couple of days here that, you should be careful what you say, like Joni said. And also if there's any travel that you can move a couple of days, and then do it,
Yeah,
Otherwise
exactly.
you have to deal with like lost baggage and, just those difficult things.
All sorts of headaches. Yes.
Yes, yes. Now the next big thing that's happening this month is going to be the solar eclipse on the 20th.
Yes.
So let me see if there's anything else in between here, Joni. I think Venus enters Taurus. Let's talk about that.
Yes. So that's a beautiful time for relationships, marriage, and I absolutely love the 22nd. I know that's after the eclipse, because that's actually the day on the 22nd that the moon and Venus are together. And the moon, actually, I think it's the 23rd that they come
It's
together.
in Rohini, yes.
That nakshatra is the best one to get married under. And, so Saturday, Sunday, that weekend, if you're planning a wedding or you're even planning a party, this is a great time to come together socially with both these planets in Taurus. The moon is exalted in Taurus, Venus is in its own sign, and together their influence is just beautiful. It's a
Beautiful
day to
And this is actually a yoga
Yes.
in astrology. It's a very, very powerful Raja Yoga in Gemini astrology,
Yes,
the
it is.
Moon-Venus combination. It's beautiful on that day. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you talked about that, Joni. I actually didn't think about that one.
Yeah, I mean, there's some light at the end of this tunnel, right?
Yes, yes. So let's go back to the 20th. We have the solar eclipse at 6 degrees of Aries. So let me adjust this a little bit while we talk about it. Yeah, it'll be around.
This is still 12 minutes after midnight again.
Midnight, yeah, 00013. So let's go to the 20th. Right there. So that's almost close right there. So
yeah,
let me take it a few minutes back, then it'll be exact. So it'll be 5:40 or 5:41, I believe.
Yeah. I have 12 minutes after midnight on the 20th. Yeah. So you got it.
Right there, 5:39. Yes. So again, an eclipse is when the sun and moon are together, and it's with the nodes, right? So you can see that this is the sun and moon together at 5:39. Now the nodes are not exactly 5:39, and that's okay. It's still considered an eclipse. If they are exact, then that's of course even more powerful. But the nodes are at around 9 degrees. Now, this eclipse is going to be in the nakshatra Ashwini. It's new beginnings. New things are starting. And the very next day, Jupiter is going to enter Aries. So that's another big thing that's happening around that time.
But one thing
So,
should be noted that Jupiter at 29 degrees of
Gandanta.
Pisces is Gandanta. And even when it does enter into Aries, for the first few degrees of fire is Gandanta. So the last few degrees of water and the first degrees of fire is Gandanta. And that just simply means people are losing control. They're losing their heads. They feel like they're drowning. And of course, that will pertain to severe weather and, the literal part of storms and drowning. But at the same time, it could be figuratively where people are losing it, losing control. This is heavy. And then Mercury, look at that on the very next day when Jupiter does go into Aries, Mercury turns retrograde. And it's going to be retrograde at the degree of some other very interesting fixed stars. Let me tell you about these two, Menkar and Almach. They are about the same degree in Aries. And one of them is very difficult and one is very good. So you're going to have a mixed bag of events while Mercury sits right on that 20-degree mark or around that stations to go retrograde, very close to Uranus, I might add, on this fixed star. And this fixed star, well, the Menkar deals with disgrace, humiliation, ruin, while Almach deals with popularity. So the way that I surmise this is you're going to find someone very popular be very disgraced and pretty much, it's set out that there's a ruin for them. So someone very popular in the news, you'll see, and celebrities, there will probably be more than one occurrence happening. So a lot is going on. And Mercury retrograde, remember, anytime a planet does go retrograde, it brings things back. It's time to go back and revisit things. So we're going to be revisiting a lot of things with Mercury, all this intensity. Mercury's in the same sign as the Jupiter, Sun, Rahu, and Uranus. Think about that sudden impact. The change. I mean, eclipses are monumental in their effects, and everything seems to go haywire when you have an eclipse. I used to tell people, go outside, you hear sirens going and noise, and it's just so chaotic. This eclipse is going to be super duper chaotic because Jupiter just entered into Aries, and Jupiter coming into a sign will magnify everything. And, I tell people, everybody thinks Jupiter with Rahu is nothing but good, major wins, because Jupiter and Rahu are pretty much the energy of expansion, opportunities, and gain. But don't forget, it intensifies and makes things go haywire because Jupiter was actually conjunct Rahu on September 11th in Gemini. But now we've got it in Aries, so there's going to be a whole new, I call it a reset. Everything's going to go through a major reset this year because of that Jupiter coming into Aries with Rahu.
Yes, and also the Jupiter with Rahu, they say, yes, they are both magnifying, they're both expansion, but it's too much of a good thing sometimes.
Yeah.
And it is called, in astrology, it's called the Guru Chandala Yoga. So it's not an amazing thing to have in a birth chart to begin with. It does bring a lot of prosperity, but then, it kind of takes away the spiritual aspect of things. People become very materialistic. Now, here's the thing, guys. When Mercury is retrograde, it's going to be retrograde till May 15th. So this is not a great time to start new projects or to sign contracts or, like Joni was saying, this is a time to retrospect. This is a time to review and reassess and think about what you want to do when it goes direct. And another thing, Joni, I don't know if you look at this too, but I think there's going to be heightened UFO activity with all of this. With all of this going on in the sign of Aries with Uranus and Rahu and Jupiter and Mercury, it's just, I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of UFO activity going on.
Right. I agree.
But, Aries is the pioneer. It's new beginnings. You will see inventions come out, technology, all of that. But, like Joni was saying, those few days when that Jupiter is Gandhanta, not a great time to have deep conversations or to plan things with people that you're close to, because, conversations can go a little out of hand. We kind of lose control of our thought or what we are wanting to say, and it can be misunderstood sometimes. Plus, Mercury is retrograde, which is the planet of communications. So, just be a little aware of that when you're talking to your, business partner or your spouse or whoever that may be, your boss. It's good to just be aware that these planets being in these positions, there could be communication breakdown. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So that's that. Anything else, Joni, that we are missing on this one?
Well, Ashwini is actually called the star of transport as well,
Yes.
because Ashwini actually deals with travel as well. So Mercury deals with travel, and Rahu can deal with airplanes. So be careful around travel at this time. And,
Yes.
there are so many flights that take off and land every day. So, probably there could be some mishaps with one flight, but don't think that it's going to affect everyone in the world. And I always tell people you need to have your own chart looked at if you're really, really concerned about a particular trip. But
Absolutely.
I do feel like traveling is going to be insane. Something's going on, and it could possibly just be technology, because that's what when Mercury goes retrograde, especially close to Uranus rules computers. This could be outages again with computers and traveling by air. That's what I think this is really trying to tell us. So take heed and be cautious. Look at, you should be able to look at your own chart and figure some things out. If not, you know what? We have a school that teaches how to do this. but
Yes.
but anyway, I am really concerned about the traveling towards this time in April. Be cautious. If you don't have to really travel, I'd say save yourself the frustration. But if you have to travel, just make sure you get it checked out. Okay. What do you think about all that, Shri?
Oh, I agree. I was actually missing the point about Ashwini for travel. I always think of Revati for some reason. I think because that's the safety and travel nakshatra.
Right.
But you're right. Ashwini does rule travel, and it even rules technology, right? Innovations, all of that. But I'm glad you talked about that, Joni. And also, like you added, you have to look at your personal chart, guys, to see if this is affecting you. Overall, you will see the energy, but whether it's mild or major depends on your chart. Okay. All right. So what else is going on here? So I think right after this, we have Venus conjunct the moon. We talked about that the very next day. So there you go. There's some light at the end of the
Yeah.
tunnel after all this, right there. Moon is in Rohini, Venus in Rohini. And then I think we have Saturn aspecting the sun. That was a big one.
Yes.
Let me see. Is that happening in this month? It should. It's around
it happens probably the 25th. Yes, there we go.
Yeah, right there, around 11 degrees, the 25th.
Yes. Saturn,
so
exactly.
Yeah, the sun is leadership, the sun is management, people who are above you in your office or, in any kind of situation, even in your business. So this is not a great time to have communications with them. Maybe wait for a couple of days. And another thing, you'll also see leadership around the world, government leaders and world leaders. You'll see some problems in those areas. There'll be some news items that come out with on April 25th or 26th. And remember, guys, it may not be exactly on that day, because these are, especially Saturn, it's a slow moving planet. So you will see the effect over a couple of days or 2 or 3 days, but usually it does affect world governments and leaders too, because that's the sun. Sun is leadership. And what does it mean? It brings delays. It brings, if there are any new policies that have to come out, any new laws that have to be signed, there can be delays in those areas, because that's Saturn. Saturn makes you think about some things rather than impulsively jumping into things, So it's not that the delay is trying to hold you back. It's just telling you, hey, let's think about this, right? And also, I think, Joni, this also intensifies what you talked about, the storms,
Yes.
because not only is Rahu with the sun, the more difficult aspects or malefic aspects on a planet, that's when there's more of those kind of issues with,
Mhm.
storms or tornadoes, earth changes, all of that.
And something else that we didn't mention, when all these planets are in Aries, that intensifies Mars because Mars is in, Aries sign being, well, Mars is in Gemini, but if you'll notice Mercury, which rules Gemini, sits in Aries. So we have this parivartana or mutual exchange of signs between Mars and Mercury.
Oh,
See,
yes.
Mars being in Gemini, ruled by Mercury, and Mercury being in Aries, ruled by Mars. So we got these two planets exchanging, and this it's like it reverses those planets in essence. Like Mars is in Aries and Mercury is in Gemini.
Yeah.
And that makes for intensity with what? The communications and travel again. This is,
Yes.
Mars is a big trigger of events. So I think there's going to be so much happening in the area of information with media, with travel, with coming together with how people think, because it's a thinking mind. And when a planet goes retrograde, it goes a different direction. Therefore, people change their mind. They may
Yeah.
be thinking along one trend of thoughts, and all of a sudden they change their mind. And that's why they say not to sign contracts usually when Mercury's retrograde, because people do change their mind. They have buyer's remorse or things like that. But things happen that are reversals in a big, huge way. And with this Mars Mercury, it's going to be everything to do with Mars is a big trigger. Mars is fiery. Mars is, can be calamity, chaos, and even warlike things
Yes.
happening, war. And Mercury is the plans, the thoughts, the communications. So we've got this big exchange, and something is up this month. I got to say, something's up this month
Yeah,
with
and imagine Mars being in Aries, guys. I mean, Mars in Aries in a chart shows physical prowess and military kind of, inclinations. People go into military, or they
right.
go into fighting or wars, those kind of things, because it's just so much energy. Imagine Mars sitting here with Jupiter, Rahu, and Uranus and Sun. It's like that when there's an exchange. So there's definitely a lot of energy there, and it can, and it's not close enough to the sun to be combust either. So this is pretty big, and the end
Right.
of the month is something to watch. We do have that ray of light over there on the 23rd with
Mm,
Moon and Venus together, but other than that, with communications, technology, news agencies, and even to do with travel, like Joni was saying, a lot of it with travel.
mhm.
It's definitely something to watch. And with everything happening, Joni, with the financial institutions and banking, I think, I feel like things are coming to a boil,
Oh, yeah.
and then we are ready to make a change.
This is it. This is like people have had enough. That's what I think.
Yeah.
This has come to the turning point. And this whole year, on and off, people have had enough.
Yes.
And I have to say this, though, it's going to make 2024 amazing. So we
Yes.
have to sort of like pull everything up to look at it so that we know exactly what we're dealing with, and therefore we're going to know how to heal it. And as quick as this, I mean, it sounds impossible, but I'm really looking forward to all this just playing out so that 2024 can come into being, because I think we're going to have such an amazing reset and change that it's going to be like, we'll look at this as we're looking at this right now, can't believe we're alive during these times, because these are epic
Yes.
times that we're living through. And we will look back and go, I can't believe that happened. We lived through that. But we're going to look back and we're going, you know what? As awful as it was, thank God it happened,
Yes.
because we couldn't be where we are, and the enormous positive change that's going to come out of this. So
Yes, it's divinely inspired change, Joni. It's just
yes.
something we
Because
have to embrace.
here's another thing that people need to remind themselves of. The light always wins. So,
Yes.
it's going to dissolve this darkness, whatever we've been dealing with that we don't understand. It's going to dissolve this. And then there's going to be a clearing and there's going to be a better world.
I
That's
agree.
what I think. And
So,
by the
so
way, something we forgot to tell everybody. Don't forget, we have a conference coming up. Yes, we have a conference coming up in Dallas, and it is going to be an amazing time. We plan that astrologically. So June 2nd through the 5th in Dallas, Texas, we have a Vedic astrology conference, and it's called The Future of Astrology. Shree and I are putting that together. We have the most amazing speakers. We're actually interviewing so many of them in the magazine. So we're kind of pair the people together in the magazine. We interview the people and we're going to have them live in, well, I want to say in concert, but they're live in person that you get to meet everyone. We're all coming together in Dallas in
yes.
June. So check it out on the website, futureofastrology.com, and you can find everything also on my website, which is, of course, galacticcenter.org. Anything else you want to say, Shree, about what's
No, just wanted to add that I've pulled up the chart for that day, and amazing speakers, like you said, Joni, Dr. Joe Vitale, James Braha, Joni Patry, of course, Kapil Raj, and Mark Boney.
Yeah,
And then, we have all the students from the university speaking. These are like huge names in this field.
right.
So, you're getting a lot for this 3-day event.
Yeah,
So make
uh,
sure you come. We would love to meet you all.
yeah. Juliana Swanson, Ronnie Gildry.
Ronnie Gale Dryer. Yeah.
This is the conference to come meet us all, because we're looking to enjoy meeting everyone, coming together with like-mindedness, and we really are planning an event to remember, because we want this to be an experience. It's going to be at a fabulous, beautiful hotel, the Anatole in Dallas. So yeah, I thank you, Shree, for bringing that up. I just don't want people to miss out on this opportunity, because it's right around the corner. Before we know it, it's going to be here, and you're going to want to be here. So let me tell you guys in advance so you can make your reservations. Okay. All right. So we've got quite a month ahead of us, and we're going to make it through it. And I can't wait for all the good that's going to come out of it. Anything else you want to add, Tree?
No, I think we talked about all the days we wanted to talk about, and we've given you some good days and some days that you need to watch out for. And remember, everything that's happening around us right now is divinely inspired change. It's required. It's required for the healing of this planet. And just remember, the feeling that you have is adding to the mass consciousness. So the more positive and the more healing our thoughts are, that's how we raise the mass consciousness.
Yes,
So let's do that together.
that's the way we believe. We believe in the law of attraction combined with the science of astrology. So the law of attraction is what you put out. It's karma. What you put
Yes.
out, you're going to get back in return. But to be able to figure when is the best day to do things, it's like my teacher used to say, there's a better time to get a suntan. Go out at noon in summer and you'll get the best suntan. But if you go out at midnight during the winter time, your suntan's not going to work. So that's a really extreme example. But you know what? Astrology's timing, and to be able to use this tool as a guidance for your life, it's like your life map. And knowing that what you put out, you will always get back in return. So let's put out the love, let's put out the gratitude, let's put out the feelings of connection with others, so that we can have a beautiful, loving, joyful life. That's my hopes for everyone out there, and we can do it together. So with that, I think we'll close. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.